Captain Jake Winters sat in his command chair, watching the stars drift past on the main screen. The Terran Defiance had been traveling through deep space for 3 months now, mapping systems that no human had ever seen before. It was quiet work, sometimes boring, but Jake knew how important it was. Humanity needed to know what was out here in the dark. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Lieutenant Ben Harris from the tactical station. His fingers moved quickly across his console, pulling up data that made his eyes go wide. "Multiple ships, sir. Big ones. They just appeared on our sensors." Jake leaned forward in his seat. "How many?" 12 contacts, sir. They're in formation, heading straight for us." Ben's voice was steady, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. "They're huge, Captain. Each one is at least twice our size." Commander Lisa Grant stepped closer to Jake's chair. She had been his second in command for 2 years, and he trusted her judgment completely. "Should we go to alert status?" "Not yet," Jake said. He turned to the communications station. "Amy, can you get me a translation program running? Let's try to talk to them first." Lieutenant Amy Brooks nodded and started working on her console. She was the best communications officer in the fleet, able to pick up and decode alien signals faster than anyone Jake had ever seen. "I'm getting something, Captain. Their communication systems are active, setting up a first contact protocol now." The alien ships grew larger on the screen as they approached. Jake could see their design now, all sharp angles and dark metal, like they were built for war rather than exploration. Gun ports lined their hulls, and their engines glowed with a sickly green light. "Captain, they're scanning us," Ben reported. "Deep scans. They're looking at everything. Our hull, our systems, even our life signs." Jake didn't like that, but first contact was always tricky. Maybe they were just curious. "Amy, are we ready to send a greeting?" "Yes, sir. The computer has their language basics figured out. It's not perfect, but we can communicate." Amy took a breath and opened a channel. "Unknown vessels. This is the Earth ship Terran Defiance. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly contact." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then the main screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. Jake felt his stomach tighten. The creature was massive, with a head like a reptile and scales that looked harder than steel. Its eyes were yellow with black slits for pupils, and when it opened its mouth, Jake could see rows of sharp teeth. "I am Warlord Zathak of the Krell Hegemony," the alien said. The translation came through with a delay, but the meaning was clear. "You have entered our hunting grounds." Jake stood up from his chair, making sure he looked calm and in control. "Warlord Zathak, we didn't know this space was claimed. We're explorers from Earth. We mean no harm and we respect your territory. We can leave peacefully." Zathak's mouth opened wide, showing all those terrible teeth. It took Jake a moment to realize the alien was laughing. "Leave? Little soft skin. You do not understand. We have scanned your ship. We have seen your bodies. You are weak. You have no claws, no armor, no venom. You are prey." "Prey?" Lisa said quietly next to Jake. "Did he just call us prey?" Amy's hands moved across her console, double-checking the translation. "Captain, I'm reading this right. Their language has very specific words. They're not calling us enemies or intruders. They're literally classifying us as prey animals." Jake felt a cold anger building in his chest, but he kept his voice level. "Warlord Zathak, we are not prey. We are sentient beings. Just like you. We can talk, we can negotiate, we can be allies." "Allies?" Zathak leaned closer to his screen. "We are the Krell. We are hunters. For 10,000 years, we have dominated this region of space. Every species we meet falls into 2 groups: hunters or prey. We have scanned your biology. You are small, weak, fragile. You are prey. And on this day, we hunt." The screen went dark. Alarms started blaring across the bridge. "They're locking weapons," Ben shouted. "Incoming fire." "Evasive action," Jake commanded, but he knew it was too late. The Krell shot first, fast and precise. The Terran Defiance shook as something hit the engine section. Sparks flew from a console on the left side of the bridge. "Engine damage," reported Chief Paul Matthews from engineering over the comm. "They hit us with some kind of pulse weapon. It didn't destroy the engines, it just shut them down. We're dead in the water, Captain." Jake gripped the arms of his chair. They had disabled the ship without destroying it. That was deliberate. That was how you stopped prey from running. "Ben, how many missiles do we have ready?" "Ready? 6 in the forward tubes, sir." "But Captain, we're outgunned 12-1. If we fight, they'll destroy us." "They're going to destroy us anyway," Lisa said. She was looking at her own tactical readout. "Look at their formation. They're surrounding us. This isn't a military engagement to them. It's a hunt." Jake watched as the 12 Krell ships moved into a sphere around the Terran Defiance, boxing them in completely. "Amy, send a distress signal to Earth Command. Full encryption. Maximum power. I want someone to know what happened here." "Sending now, sir," Amy replied, her fingers flying across her console. The sensors showed new movement. Small ships were launching from the Krell vessels, dozens of them, heading straight for the Terran Defiance. "Boarding craft," Ben said. "They're coming aboard, Captain. They're not going to blow us up. They're going to board us." Jake hit the ship-wide comm button. "All hands, this is the captain. We are being boarded by hostile aliens. This is not a drill. All Marines to defensive positions. All crew members, arm yourselves and prepare to repel boarders. These aliens think we're prey animals. Let's show them what happens when they hunt humans." He turned to Lisa. "Get down to the armory. I want every weapon we have distributed to the crew. Rifles, pistols, everything." "What about you?" Lisa asked. "I'll be right behind you. I need to coordinate the defense from here first." Jake looked at the screen, watching those boarding craft get closer and closer. "Ben, I want you to monitor their movements. Track every Krell that comes aboard this ship. Amy, keep trying to get through to them. See if they'll listen to reason." "I don't think they will, sir," Amy said quietly. "Neither do I," Jake admitted. "But we have to try." The first Krell warrior through the breach stood nearly 8 feet tall. Its scales were dark green and looked thick enough to stop a knife. Yellow eyes scanned the corridor, searching for victims. Behind it, more Krell pushed through, their claws scraping against the metal floor. Sergeant Mike Turner waited in the shadows with his Marine squad. He had positioned his 6 soldiers at key points along the corridor, giving them clear lines of fire. The Krell moved forward slowly, making strange clicking sounds that Mike guessed was their way of communicating. "Hold," Mike whispered into his comm. "Wait for my signal." The lead Krell raised its weapon, some kind of energy rifle that glowed with the same green light as their engines. It pointed the weapon at a closed door and fired. The shot hit the door but didn't punch through. Instead, it seemed to heat the metal, making it glow red. Mike understood. They weren't trying to kill quickly. They were trying to flush out prey, to make them run. That was their mistake. "Now," Mike shouted. 6 rifles fired at once. The bullets hit the lead Krell in the chest and head. The creature's scales were tough, but not tough enough. It went down hard. Green blood spraying across the floor. The other Krell froze in surprise for just a second, and that second cost them. Mike's squad kept firing, controlled bursts that found weak points in the alien armor. The Krell had never faced weapons designed purely to kill efficiently. Their own guns were made for hunting. For sport, human guns were made for war. 3 more Krell fell before the rest found cover. They returned fire, and Mike had to duck as a green energy bolt sizzled past his head. The wall behind him started to glow and melt. "Fall back to checkpoint 2, Mike ordered. His squad moved in pairs, covering each other as they retreated down the corridor. This was just the first contact. There would be many more Krell coming, and Mike needed to control the battlefield. On the other side of the ship, Dr. Karen White was having a very different experience. She had been in the medical bay when the alarms went off, treating a crew member with a broken arm from a training accident. Now she was trapped with 3 injured personnel and no way out. The door to the medical bay exploded inward, not from cutting torches, but from pure force. A Krell warrior had simply kicked it down. The alien ducked through the doorway, followed by 2 more. Karen grabbed a surgical laser from the table next to her. It was meant for delicate operations, not combat, but it was the only weapon she had. The lead Krell looked at her and made a sound like laughter. "Small, soft skin," it said in broken English. "You hide in healing room. You are easy prey." Karen's fear turned to anger. She had spent 8 years in medical school, then 4 more years as a ship's doctor. She knew anatomy better than anyone on this vessel. And right now, looking at these aliens, her medical training was telling her exactly where their weak points were. The Krell reached for her with one massive clawed hand. Karen waited until the last second, then drove the surgical laser straight into the joint where the alien's arm met its shoulder. There was a gap in the scales there, a necessary weak point that allowed movement. The laser cut deep. The Krell screamed and pulled back, green blood pouring from the wound. Its arm hung useless at its side. Karen didn't stop. She moved to the side and drove her knee into the back of the alien's leg joint, right where she knew the tendons would be. The Krell collapsed, and Karen ran past it toward the other 2. She had no chance against them in a fair fight. But this wasn't fair. This was survival. She grabbed a metal tray from a medical cart and threw it at the nearest Krell's face. The alien flinched, and in that moment, Karen hit the emergency release for the medical gas system. Anesthetic gas flooded the room. The Krell stumbled, confused by the sudden fog. Karen held her breath and ran for the door. She made it into the hallway and slammed the emergency seal button. The door locked behind her, trapping the Krell inside with enough gas to put down a dozen humans. She didn't know if it would work on aliens, but she wasn't staying to find out. Karen ran down the corridor toward the nearest security station, where she knew there would be real weapons. In engineering, Chief Paul Matthews was turning the ship itself into a weapon. He sat at his main console, watching the tracking data that showed Krell positions throughout the vessel. They were everywhere now, dozens of them, searching deck by deck. "Chief, we've got 6 Krell heading toward the reactor room," said one of his engineers, a young man named Danny Clark. "If they breach that section, we're in serious trouble." Paul nodded. "Not if I can help it. Danny, seal bulkhead 7 and 9. Trap them in that corridor." Danny's fingers moved across his console. Heavy blast doors slammed shut on both ends of a corridor, trapping the 6 Krell warriors between them. The aliens immediately started trying to cut through, their weapons heating the metal. "Now vent that section," Paul ordered. Danny hesitated. "Chief, that's going to be loud. Every Krell on the ship will hear it." "Good. Let them hear it. Let them know what happens when you hunt humans on our own ship." Danny pressed the release. The atmosphere in that corridor vented into space in 3 seconds. The 6 Krell didn't even have time to scream. Their bodies froze instantly in the cold of space. Paul marked that section on his map and looked for the next group of Krell. He found them trying to breach the ship's computer core. "They're learning," he muttered. "They know that's important." First, he couldn't vent that section without destroying critical systems, so he tried something else. Paul rerouted power to the hull plating in that area and overcharged it. The metal floor became electrified. The Krell, trying to cut through the door to the computer core, suddenly found themselves standing on a surface carrying enough electricity to power half the ship. Their scales conducted the current beautifully. 3 aliens collapsed, their bodies smoking. Paul felt sick watching it, but he didn't stop. This was war now, even if the Krell thought it was just a hunt. Captain Jake Winters moved through the ship with a squad of 5 Marines. He had left Ben Harris in command of the bridge, with orders to monitor the overall situation. Lisa Grant was coordinating defensive positions throughout the ship. Amy Brooks was still trying to communicate with the Krell, though none of them were answering. Jake's comm crackled. "Captain, This is Mike Turner. We've engaged the enemy in Section 4. We've taken down 8 hostiles. No casualties on our side. But sir, there are a lot more coming. They just keep boarding. Hold your position, Sergeant, Jake replied. We're spreading them out, making them fight us in small groups. That's our advantage. Understood, sir. But Captain, these things are tough. Our bullets work, but it takes a lot to bring one down. And they're fast. Jake knew Mike was right. He had seen it himself when his squad had encountered a group of 3 Krell in a side corridor. Even wounded, the aliens were dangerous. Their claws could tear through body armor, and their strength was incredible. But humans had advantages too. They knew the ship. They could move through maintenance tunnels and service corridors that the big Krell couldn't fit through. They could set ambushes, use traps, and fight smart instead of fighting fair. All units. This is the captain, Jake said over the ship-wide comm. Stop thinking of this as a defense. Start thinking of it as a hunt. The Krell came here to hunt prey. Show them what happens when the prey fights back. Use everything you know about this ship. Use every trick we have. Make them afraid. The response was immediate. Throughout the Terran Defiance, the human crew stopped retreating and started attacking. Small groups of crew members, armed with whatever weapons they could find, began moving through the ship like wolves hunting in packs. Ensign Claire Davis, a young navigation officer who had never fired a gun outside of basic training, found herself leading a team of 4 through the ventilation system. They crawled through the narrow ducts, following the sound of Krell movement below them. Claire positioned her team at 4 different vent covers, each one looking down into a corridor where Krell were searching for humans. She counted down on her fingers. 3, 2, 1. 4 vent covers dropped open at once. 4 humans opened fire from above, catching the Krell completely by surprise. The aliens had been looking for threats at ground level, not from above. By the time they realized where the shots were coming from, it was too late. Claire and her team closed the vents and crawled away before the Krell could respond. They would hit another group in 5 minutes, from a different direction. On his flagship, Warlord Zathak watched the reports coming in from his boarding parties. What should have been a simple hunt was turning into something else. His warriors were dying, not just a few, but dozens of them. Captain Jake Winters stood in the main corridor of Deck 3, looking at the bodies of 5 Krell warriors scattered across the floor. His Marine squad had ambushed them 10 minutes ago, and the fight had been short but brutal. Green blood stained the walls and floor. Sir, we're getting reports from all over the ship, said Corporal Steve Price, one of Mike Turner's men. The Krell are slowing down. They're not pushing forward as hard as they were, Jake nodded. He had noticed it too. The initial wave of Krell boarders had been aggressive and confident, treating this like a simple hunt. But now, after losing so many warriors, they were becoming cautious. They were starting to realize that humans were not easy prey. Get me Commander Grant, Jake said into his comm. Lisa's voice came through immediately. I'm here, Captain. I'm in the armory with Dr. White. She's been sharing some interesting information. What kind of information? Medical data on Krell anatomy. Karen has been studying the bodies we've recovered. She's found weak points in their armor, places where the scales don't protect them fully. I'm uploading the data to all squad leaders now. Jake felt a grim satisfaction. That was the human advantage right there. They adapted. They learned. They turned every piece of information into a weapon. Good work. Tell Karen she just saved a lot of lives. On the bridge, Lieutenant Ben Harris was coordinating the defensive effort like a chess master. He had a full map of the ship displayed on his screen, with red dots showing Krell positions and blue dots showing human forces. He was moving the blue dots around, sending teams to intercept Krell groups before they could reach critical areas. Lieutenant Brooks, I need you to do something for me, Ben said to Amy, who was still at her communications station. What do you need? Can you hack into the Krell communication system? I want to hear what they're saying to each other. Amy's fingers danced across her console. Give me a minute. Their encryption is tough, but not impossible. She worked in silence for several moments. then smiled. Got it. Patching their chatter through now, the bridge speakers filled with alien voices, all speaking in the harsh, clicking language of the Krell. The computer translated in real time. This is Hunting Party 7. We have lost contact with Hunting Party 3. Last known position was Deck 5, Section 12. Hunting Party 9 reporting. We are taking fire from multiple directions. These prey are organized. Request support. This is Hunting Party 4. We have cornered a group of soft skins in the cargo bay. But they have sealed the doors. We cannot break through. Ben listened carefully, learning their tactics and their weaknesses. Amy, can they hear us if we broadcast on their frequency? Yes, but they'll know we're listening if we do that. I don't care. Ben opened a channel to the Krell frequency. Attention all Krell forces. This is the Terran Defiance. You came here to hunt. Now you're the ones being hunted. You have one chance to leave this ship alive. Surrender your weapons and return to your boarding craft. You have 5 minutes to comply. Quote, there was a moment of silence on the Krell channel. Then Warlord Zathak's voice came through, filled with rage. Soft skins do not give orders to the Krell. We are the hunters. You are prey. Then come and get us, Ben said calmly, and closed the channel. In the cargo bay, Ensign Claire Davis and her team had indeed been cornered by Krell Hunting Party 4. But Claire hadn't sealed the doors because she was trapped. She had sealed them because she had a plan. How many are out there? Asked Private Luis Martinez, one of the 4 crew members with her. I count 8 on the sensors, Claire replied. She was looking at a portable scanner that showed heat signatures through the walls. They're trying to cut through the door, but it's reinforced. It'll take them a while. So what do we do? Wait for backup? Claire shook her head. We go on the offensive. She pointed to a large cargo container in the center of the bay. That container is full of mining explosives. We were transporting them to an outpost before all this started. Luis's eyes went wide. You want to blow them up? Not exactly. I want to scare them. Claire climbed on top of the container and opened the access panel. Inside were rows of small explosive charges, each one designed to break up asteroids. She carefully removed 6 of them and handed them down to her team. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to open that door, throw these charges out into the corridor, and seal the door again before they explode. The Krell will think we're trying to blow them up, and they'll run. Then we chase them. That's crazy, said a crew member named Rachel Park. That's why it'll work, Claire replied. They positioned themselves at the door. Claire held 3 of the explosive charges. Luis held 2. And Rachel held 1. Claire set the charges to detonate in 10 seconds and counted down. 3, 2, 1, open. The door slid open. The Krell on the other side looked up in surprise. Claire and her team threw the charges out into the corridor and hit the door close button. The door sealed just as the charges went off. The explosion shook the entire deck. When Claire opened the door again, the corridor was filled with smoke and debris. The Krell were gone, having fled the blast zone as she predicted, but she could see them on her scanner, retreating toward their boarding craft. Now we hunt, Claire said, and led her team after them. Sergeant Mike Turner had developed his own strategy for dealing with the Krell. Instead of waiting for them to come to him, he was taking the fight to their boarding craft. If he could destroy or disable those craft, the Krell couldn't retreat, and they couldn't get reinforcements. He led a squad of 8 Marines through the lower decks, heading toward the hull breach where the largest Krell boarding craft had attached itself. Along the way, they encountered 2 small groups of Krell warriors. The fights were quick and efficient. Mike's team had trained for ship-to-ship combat for years. The Krell were hunters, but they weren't soldiers. When they reached the breach point, Mike could see the boarding craft through the hole in the hull. It was an ugly thing, all sharp edges and dark metal, with a docking tube that connected it to the Terran Defiance. Plant the charges on the docking tube, Mike ordered. His demolitions expert, Corporal Janet Hayes, moved forward with a pack full of explosives. She placed charges at 3 key points on the tube. Charges set, Sergeant. 30-second timer. Everyone back to safe distance. When this goes, that boarding craft is going to be cut loose. They retreated down the corridor and waited. The explosion was smaller than Claire's cargo bay blast, but much more precise. The docking tubes separated from the ship's hull, and the boarding craft began to drift away into space. Mike could see Krell warriors inside, scrambling to regain control of their vessel. "One down," Mike said with satisfaction. "Let's find the next one." Dr. Karen White had become an unlikely combat instructor. In the ship's armory, she was teaching crew members how to fight Krell, using their own biology against them. She had diagrams displayed on a screen, showing the weak points she had discovered. "The scales are thickest on the chest and back," she explained to a group of 20 crew members who had gathered to learn. "But there are gaps at every joint. Shoulders, elbows, knees, ankles. That's where you aim. Also, their eyes are vulnerable. A bright light will blind them temporarily, and they don't recover quickly." A young engineer named Kevin Ross raised his hand. "What about their weapons? How do we counter those?" "Their energy weapons are designed to heat and wound, not to kill instantly," Karen explained. "They're hunting weapons. They want their prey to run so they can chase. Our weapons are designed to kill. That's our advantage. We shoot to end the threat immediately." Lisa Grant stood at the back of the room, watching Karen teach. The doctor had transformed from a healer into something else. Something harder. Lisa understood. Everyone on this ship was changing. They had to. The galaxy was not the peaceful place they had hoped it would be. "Commander Grant," said a voice from the doorway. It was Chief Paul Matthews, covered in grease and looking exhausted. "I've been tracking Krell movements through the ship's sensors. They're pulling back. Most of their hunting parties are retreating to their boarding craft." "How many have we lost?" Lisa asked quietly. "We have 14 crew members dead and 23 wounded. But the Krell have lost over 60 warriors. They're taking casualties at a rate they never expected." Lisa felt a weight in her chest at the news of 14 dead. But she knew it could have been much worse. If the crew had panicked, if they had tried to hide instead of fight, the Krell would have slaughtered them all. "Keep monitoring their movements. I want to know if they start another major push." "Yes, ma'am. But Commander, I don't think they will. I've been listening to their communications. They're confused. They don't understand why this prey is so dangerous." Back on the Krell flagship, Warlord Zathak was indeed confused. He stared at his tactical display, watching as hunting party after hunting party reported casualties or retreated. This was not how hunts were supposed to go. Prey ran. Prey hid. Prey died. These humans did none of those things. They fought with weapons that killed efficiently. They used their ship as a weapon. They worked together in coordinated groups. They laid traps and ambushes. They adapted to Krell tactics faster than any species Zathak had ever encountered. "My lord, we have lost 73 warriors," his second-in-command reported. "That is more than we lost in our last 5 hunts combined." "How many softskins have we killed?" Zathak demanded. "Reports indicate only 14 confirmed kills, my lord." 14. Out of a crew of over 200. Zathak felt something Captain Jake Winters ran through the corridors of the Terran Defiance, heading back to the bridge. Behind him, he could hear the sounds of the last Krell warriors retreating to their boarding craft. The humans had won the fight inside the ship, but Ben's warning made it clear that the real battle was about to begin. "How long do we have?" Jake asked as he burst onto the bridge. Ben looked up from his tactical station. "Maybe 2 minutes before they're fully charged and ready to fire." "Captain, we can't take a full broadside from 12 ships. Our shields won't hold." Jake dropped into his command chair and brought up the weapons display. The Terran Defiance was an exploration vessel, not a warship. But Earth Military Command had equipped it with something special, something that Jake had hoped he would never have to use. "Lisa, are you still in the armory?" he asked over the comm. "Yes, Captain. What do you need?" "Get to engineering and help Paul with the power systems. We're about to draw more energy than this ship has ever used before." Commander Lisa Grant didn't ask questions. She just ran. Jake trusted her to figure it out when she saw what Paul was doing. "Ben, I need you to target the lead Krell ship, the biggest one. That's where their warlord is." "Sir, We only have 6 missiles left, and our standard weapons won't even scratch their shields. We're not using standard weapons. Jake entered his command codes into the weapons console. A new panel appeared, one that he had only seen during classified briefings before the Terran Defiance left Earth. The panel showed a single weapon system, colored red with multiple warning labels. "Sir, is that what I think it is?" Ben asked quietly. "It is. The experimental railgun. Earth military built it into our hull before we left. They wanted to test it in deep space, away from any civilian areas. The railgun was a magnetic acceleration weapon that could fire a solid projectile at a significant fraction of light speed. The energy requirements were enormous, which was why standard warships couldn't carry them yet. But the Terran Defiance had experimental power systems that could handle the load for a short time. In engineering, Chief Paul Matthews stared at his power display as new demands started showing up. "What in the name of everything is the captain doing?" he muttered. Then he saw the power routing and understood. Oh, he's using that thing." Lisa arrived at engineering, breathing hard from her run. "Paul, what's happening?" "The captain is about to fire the railgun. We need to reroute all available power to the weapons systems. That means shields go down, life support goes to minimum, and we better hope this works on the first shot, because we won't have power for a second one." Lisa nodded and moved to a secondary console. "Then, let's make sure the first shot counts." They worked together, their fingers flying across controls. Power flowed from every system on the ship into the railgun. The weapon began to charge, drawing more and more energy. The lights on the engineering deck dimmed to emergency levels. On the bridge, Jake watched the charge indicator climb. 50%. 60%. The Krell ships were nearly ready to fire. He could see their weapons glowing with that sickly green light. "Amy, open a channel to the Krell flagship," Jake ordered. "Channel open, sir." Jake looked directly at the screen, knowing that Warlord Zathak was watching on the other end. "Warlord Zathak, you made a mistake today. You saw humans as prey because we don't have claws or armor or venom. But you didn't look at our history. You didn't ask why a species with no natural weapons managed to become the dominant predator on our planet." The screen flickered, and Zathak's face appeared. The alien warlord looked angry. "You talk much for prey about to die, soft skin. In 30 seconds, my fleet will turn your ship into debris. I'm going to tell you something important," Jake continued, his voice cold and hard. "Humans became apex predators on Earth by hunting creatures much larger and stronger than ourselves. We didn't have claws, so we made weapons. We didn't have armor, so we made tools. We didn't have venom, so we developed tactics. We are pursuit predators, Warlord. We chase our prey across continents. We track them for days, we never give up, and we never stop. And when we catch them, we show no mercy." "Empty words," Zathak snarled. "Your weapons are weak. Your ship is damaged. You are still prey." Jake smiled without humor. "You scanned our biology, but you didn't scan our weapons. Let me educate you." The railgun charge hit 90%. Jake's finger hovered over the firing control. "Ben, do you have a lock on the flagship?" "Yes, sir." "Locked and tracking. Fire when ready." The charge hit 100%. Ben pressed the firing button. The railgun fired with no sound, no flash of light, no dramatic effect. It simply released a solid tungsten projectile weighing 3 kilograms and accelerated it to 12% of light speed using magnetic forces. The projectile crossed the distance to the Krell flagship in less than a second. The Krell shields, designed to stop energy weapons and explosive missiles, did absolutely nothing against a solid object moving that fast. The projectile punched through the shields like they didn't exist. It hit the flagship's hull and kept going. The kinetic energy was so enormous that the tungsten didn't just penetrate the ship. It created a tunnel of superheated plasma that burned through deck after deck, destroying everything in its path. The projectile entered through the bow and exited through the stern, leaving a glowing hole 3 meters wide through the entire length of the vessel. On the Krell flagship, chaos erupted. Warlord Zathak was thrown from his command chair as the ship shook violently. Alarms screamed. Systems failed across the vessel. The command deck lost atmosphere, and emergency force fields barely activated in time to save the crew. Zathak stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His flagship, the pride of the Krell fleet, had just been crippled by a single shot from a ship he had dismissed as weak prey. On the Terran Defiance, Jake didn't give Zathak time to recover. Amy, broadcast this message to all Krell ships on all frequencies. Amy's fingers moved quickly. You're broadcasting now, sir. Attention Krell fleet. Your flagship has been disabled. Your warlord is still alive, but his ship is dead in space. You came here to hunt humans. You made the mistake of thinking that weakness and prey are the same thing. We are not weak. We are not prey. We are warriors of Earth, and we will defend ourselves. Jake paused, letting that sink in. Then he continued. You have one chance to survive this encounter. Power down your weapons immediately and withdraw from this area. If you fire on us, if you make any hostile move, I will destroy every single one of your ships. This is your only warning. On the other Krell vessels, the commanders looked at each other in shock. Their warlord's flagship was drifting, powerless and burning. The humans had done that with one shot, one impossible shot that their shields couldn't stop. While you're thinking about it, Jake added, you should know something else. That weapon I just used? We have 5 more shots ready to go, and Lieutenant Brooks here has been very busy while you were boarding my ship. Amy, tell them what you've been doing. Amy looked nervous but spoke clearly. I've infiltrated your ship control systems through your own communication channels. Right now, half of your fleet has lost maneuvering control. The ships can still fire weapons, but they can't move. They can't dodge. They're sitting targets. Jake nodded. So here's your situation, Krell. Half your ships can't move. Your flagship is destroyed. I have 5 more shots with a weapon that ignores your shields. And I'm very, very angry about the 14 crew members you killed on my ship, so I ask you again, do you want to keep hunting? Or do you want to survive? In engineering, Paul stared at his power display. Captain, we don't actually have 5 more shots. We barely have power for life support right now. Lisa put her hand on his arm. The Krell don't know that. Trust the captain. On the bridge, Jake waited. The seconds ticked by. He knew this was a bluff. The railgun needed hours to recharge between shots. But the Krell didn't know that. All they knew was that their shields were useless, and their ships were vulnerable. One of the Krell vessels began to power down its weapons, then another, and another. Within a minute, all 11 remaining active ships had powered down. A communication came through from one of the Krell ships. This is Commander Vorak, of the war vessel Dark Fang. We acknowledge your terms. We will withdraw, but know this, human. The Krell hegemony will remember what happened here. Good, Jake said. Remember it well. Remember that humans are not prey. Remember that we fight back. Remember that we win. And most importantly, remember to tell every other species you meet about what happened when you tried to hunt us. The Krell fleet began to withdraw, their ships turning away from the Terran Defiance and activating their faster-than-light drives. One by one, they vanished into the dark of space. Only the crippled flagship remained, drifting slowly. Captain, should we destroy the flagship? Ben asked. Jake shook his head. No, let it drift. Let them see what happens when you hunt humans. Let them send a salvage crew to retrieve their warlord and their dead. Let them see that hole through their ship and know that they were completely outmatched. He stood up from his chair and looked around the bridge. Ben was at tactical, exhausted but alert. Amy was at communications, tears running down her face from the stress of the last hour. The rest of the bridge crew looked shaken but proud. Amy, send a message to the flagship. Tell them they have 24 hours to send a rescue ship. After that, we're leaving this system. Yes, sir. Jake activated the ship-wide comm. All hands, this is the captain. The Krell have withdrawn. We have won. But we paid a price. 14 of our crew members died today defending this ship. 23 more are wounded. We will honor their sacrifice. We will remember their names. And we will make sure that the galaxy knows what they fought for. The right of humans to exist as free people. Not as prey for anyone. He paused, gathering his thoughts. We came out here to explore, to learn, to make peaceful contact with alien species. We still hope for that. But today we learned something important. The galaxy is not always peaceful. Sometimes, you have to fight for your right to exist. Sometimes, you have to show strength. And today, you all showed that humans are strong. You showed that we can fight. You showed that we can win. 3 weeks had passed since the battle with the Krell. The Terran Defiance moved slowly through space toward the nearest human outpost. Its damaged engines running at half power. Chief Paul Matthews had worked miracles to get them moving at all, but it would take months in a proper shipyard to fix everything. Captain Jake Winters stood in the ship's small memorial room, looking at the names engraved on the wall. 14 names. 14 crew members who would never see Earth again. He had written personal messages to each of their families, though he knew that words could never truly explain what had happened or why it mattered. "Captain, you wanted to see me?" Dr. Karen White stood in the doorway, looking tired but steady. She had spent the last 3 weeks treating the wounded and studying the 3 captured Krell. "How are our prisoners?" Jake asked. "Healing well, actually. Their biology is tough. 2 of them will make full recoveries. The 3rd lost an arm. But he's stable." Karen moved to stand beside Jake, looking at the memorial wall. "They've been asking to speak with you. Have they said why?" "They want to understand. They keep asking how humans could fight the way we did. They don't understand how prey could defeat hunters." Jake nodded. "Let's go talk to them." The medical isolation ward had been converted into a holding area for the Krell prisoners. The 3 aliens sat in separate cells, their wounds bandaged and healing. They looked smaller somehow, less frightening than they had during the battle. Jake realized that fear had made them seem larger. The largest of the 3 Krell, the one who had lost his arm, stood when Jake entered. "You are the human leader. The one who spoke to Warlord Zathak. I am Captain Jake Winters. What's your name?" The alien seemed surprised by the question. "I am Rekar, 3rd Claw of Hunting Party 6. "Why do you ask my name?" "We are defeated enemies. Because you have a name. Because you're a living being, not just an enemy." Jake pulled up a chair and sat down, positioning himself at eye level with the Krell. "Your people made a mistake, Rekar. You judged us by our bodies, not by our minds or our history. We scanned you," Rekar said. "The scans showed weakness. No claws. No armor. No venom. All prey species share these traits. On your world, maybe, but not on Earth." Jake leaned forward. "Let me tell you about Earth. Rekar. Our planet has creatures with claws much larger than yours. We have animals with armor thicker than your scales. We have snakes with venom that can kill in minutes, and humans hunted all of them. We hunted them, we killed them, and in some cases, we drove them to extinction." The 3 Krell looked at each other, their yellow eyes showing confusion. The second prisoner, smaller than Rekar, spoke up. "How? How could softskins hunt creatures stronger than themselves? With intelligence, with tools, with cooperation, with patience." Jake stood and began to pace. "There's a type of hunting that humans developed called persistence hunting. We would chase an animal for days, never stopping, never giving up. The animal would be faster and stronger, but it would tire. Humans can run for longer than almost any creature on Earth. We would chase our prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then we would kill it. That is not honorable hunting," Rekar said. But his voice was uncertain. "Honorable?" Jake turned to face him. "Your people boarded my ship to hunt my crew for sport. You killed 14 people who did nothing to you, except exist in what you considered your territory. And you talk about honor?" "And he talk about honor?" Rekar looked down, unable to meet Jake's eyes. "The Krell have always been hunters. For 10,000 years, we have hunted across the stars. We did not know any other way. Then learn a new way, Jake said firmly. Because the galaxy is bigger than you think, and humans are not the only species that will fight back. You were lucky you found us. We showed mercy. The next species might not. The third Krell prisoner, who had been silent until now, spoke in a quiet voice. What will you do with us? I'm going to send you home. A Krell rescue ship arrived yesterday to recover your warlord and the damaged flagship. I'm going to put you on a shuttle and send you back to them. But you're going to deliver a message for me. What message? Wrecker asked. That humans are willing to talk. That we want peace. But that we will defend ourselves if threatened. That we are not prey. And we are not victims. We are a warrior species that chooses not to hunt others. But we will fight when necessary. Jake walked to the cell controls and opened all 3 doors. The Krell stood uncertainly, clearly not expecting to be released. You're free to move around the medical bay while your injuries heal. We'll have you on that shuttle in 2 days. Doctor, White will continue to treat you. Why do you show us mercy? Wrecker asked. We killed your crew members. We tried to hunt you, because you were following your nature and your culture. You didn't know any better. But now you do. Now you know that humans fight back. Now you know that we're strong, and now you know that despite our strength, we choose mercy when we can. Take that knowledge back to your people. Jake left the medical bay and headed to the bridge. When he arrived, he found Commander Lisa Grant reviewing damage reports while Lieutenant Ben Harris monitored long-range sensors. Any sign of more Krell ships? Jake asked. None, sir, Ben replied. It seems they really did withdraw from this entire sector. We've been monitoring their communications, and they're talking about us all across their territory. What are they saying? Amy Brooks, at her communication station, pulled up a translation. They're calling us the Earth Warriors. They're warning other Krell hunting fleets to avoid human ships. Some of them are even questioning whether the whole concept of treating other species as prey is wise. Jake sat in his command chair, feeling a mix of emotions. Relief that they had survived. Sadness for those who had died. Pride in how his crew had fought. And hope that maybe, just maybe, this encounter would lead to something better. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command, Amy said. It's marked urgent. Put it through. The view screen changed to show Admiral William Scott, the commander of Earth's Deep Space Forces. The Admiral looked grave. Captain Winters, we've received your full report on the Krell encounter. First, let me say that Earth mourns with you for your fallen crew members. They died as heroes, defending humanity against an unprovoked attack. Thank you, sir. Second, I need to inform you of some developments. The Krell have made official contact with Earth. They've sent a delegation to our nearest outpost with a proposal for diplomatic relations. Jake felt his eyebrows rise. Diplomatic relations? After they tried to hunt us? According to their message, the Krell respect strength above all else. You demonstrated that strength. They now wish to speak with us as equals, not as prey. They've even offered to share information about other species in this region of space. What does Earth Command want me to do? Admiral Scott leaned forward. Continue to the outpost as planned. Get your ship repaired and your wounded treated. But Captain, this encounter has changed everything. You've shown the galaxy that humans are not to be underestimated. Other alien species have been watching. We've received inquiries from 4 different civilizations asking about Earth and humanity. What kind of inquiries? Mostly cautious questions. Who are we? What do we want? Are we conquerors or explorers? But Captain Winters, some of these species have suffered under Krell aggression for generations. They're interested in any species that could stand up to the Krell and win. Jake understood what the Admiral was really saying. Earth was about to become a major player in galactic politics, whether they wanted to or not. The battle with the Krell had been humanity's introduction to the wider galaxy, and it had been a violent one. Sir, we came out here to explore and learn. We wanted peaceful contact. And you'll still get that, Captain. But now you'll get it from a position of respect. The galaxy knows that humans can fight. Now we need to show them that we can also build, create, and cooperate, that we're more than just warriors. The transmission ended. Jake sat quietly for a moment, thinking about everything that had happened. Then he noticed Ensign Claire Davis at the navigation station, looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Permission to speak freely, sir?" "Granted, Claire. Do you think we did the right thing?" "I mean, we killed almost 80 Krell. We destroyed their flagship. I know they attacked us first, but still, that's a lot of death." Jake considered his answer carefully. "I think we did what we had to do to survive. The Krell gave us no choice. They boarded our ship with the intention of hunting and killing everyone aboard. We defended ourselves. But Claire, I don't want you to think that killing is ever easy or good. Those Krell we killed, they had families. They had lives. We ended those lives because we had to, not because we wanted to. So what do we do now? We heal, we repair, we honor our dead. And then we continue our mission. We explore, we learn, we make contact with other species, and we try to do it peacefully. But we also remember that the galaxy is dangerous, and we stay ready to defend ourselves if necessary." Lieutenant Ben Harris spoke up from Tactical. "Captain, I'm picking up a transmission on long-range sensors. It's not from the Krell. It's from an unknown source. Put it through." The view screen flickered and showed an alien that looked nothing like the Krell. This creature was small and slender, with blue skin and large eyes. It wore robes decorated with complex patterns. "Greetings, Earth vessel Terran Defiance. I am Ambassador Lyra of the Velen Collective. We have been monitoring your encounter with the Krell hegemony. We wish to extend an invitation to open diplomatic relations with your people." Jake stood up. "Ambassador Lyra, I'm Captain Jake Winters. We're honored by your invitation. May I ask why the Velen Collective is interested in Earth?" "Because, Captain Winters, the Krell have terrorized this region of space for thousands of years. Many species have suffered under their concept of the hunt. When we saw that a new species had not only survived a Krell attack but defeated them decisively, we knew we had to make contact. The galaxy needs species with your strength and your willingness to fight for what is right. We're explorers and scientists, Ambassador, not warriors. But you can be warriors when necessary. That is what matters." "Captain Winters, there are threats in this galaxy far worse than the Krell. There are species that conquer and enslave. There are empires built on cruelty and oppression. The free peoples of the galaxy need allies who can stand against such threats." Jake looked at Lisa, who gave him a small nod. He looked at Ben, who shrugged. He looked at Amy, who smiled encouragingly. Then he looked at Claire, who seemed nervous but hopeful. Finally, he turned back to Ambassador Lyra. "We're interested in talking, Ambassador. But I need to make something clear. Earth seeks peace. We want to explore, to learn, to build friendships across the stars. We will defend ourselves and our allies, but we will not become conquerors. That is exactly the kind of ally the Velen Collective seeks," Lyra said warmly. "Captain, I look forward to meeting you in person when you reach the outpost. Until then, travel safely. And Captain, thank you for showing the Krell that their reign of terror has limits." The transmission ended. Jake sat back down in his chair and let out a long breath. "Well, crew, it looks like we're not just explorers anymore. We're ambassadors too. Is that a bad thing?" Claire asked. "I don't know yet," Jake admitted. "But I know this. Earth sent us out here to make contact with alien life. We've done that. It didn't go the way we planned. But we survived. We fought. We won. And now we have a chance to build something better. That's what we'll focus on. Building, not just fighting." The Terran Defiance continued its slow journey through space. Behind them, the Krell flagship drifted in the darkness, a monument to the day that humanity announced itself to the galaxy. Ahead of them lay unknown stars, unknown species, and unknown challenges. But Captain Jake Winters and his crew were ready. They had proven that humans were survivors. They had proven that humans were fighters. Now they would prove that humans could be builders and peacemakers too. The galaxy had learned that humans were not prey. Now, it would learn what humans could truly be when given the chance. Warriors when necessary. Protectors when called upon. Explorers always. And most importantly, a species that chose mercy over cruelty, understanding over fear, and hope over despair. The age of human expansion into the stars had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. The comm channel filled with cheers and shouts from throughout the ship. The crew had won an impossible battle against overwhelming odds. They had faced predators who saw them as prey and turned the tables completely. Jake sat back down in his chair, suddenly feeling very tired. Lisa's voice came through his comm. "Captain, Paul says we need at least 12 hours before we can move. The railgun drained almost everything." "That's fine, Commander. We told the Krell they have 24 hours. We'll be ready to leave before then." Jake looked at the view screen, watching the Krell flagship drift in the darkness. "Lisa, how many of the Krell boarders did we kill?" "Final count is 79 dead, Captain. We captured 3 who were too injured to retreat. Keep them in medical isolation. Treat their wounds. I want to send them back to their people with a message." "What message?" "That humans show mercy to defeated enemies. That we're not monsters, we're just not prey. Ad not felt in many years. Not fear exactly, but something close to it. Uncertainty. Recall all hunting parties to their craft," he ordered. "We end this hunt differently. My lord, if we cannot take them as prey, we will destroy them as enemies. Order all ships to target the Terran Defiance with main weapons. We will blow that ship apart and end this humiliation." The second in command hesitated. "But our warriors are still aboard that vessel. They have failed the hunt. Let them die as warriors instead of returning as failures." Zathak turned to his weapons officer. "Charge all main guns. Prepare to fire on my command." On the Terran Defiance, alarms suddenly began blaring across the bridge. Ben Harris looked at his tactical display and felt his blood run cold. All 12 Krell warships were powering up their weapons and aiming them at the human vessel. "Captain Winters, we have a problem," Ben said into his comm. "The Krell are about to open fire with everything they have." "How is this possible?" he demanded of his second in command. "These creatures have no claws, no natural weapons. They should be easy prey. They fight with cunning, my lord." The second replied. "They use their ship against us. They lay traps. They strike and disappear. This is not how prey behaves." Zathak slammed his fist on his command console. "They are still prey. Send more warriors. Double the boarding parties. I want that ship cleared within the hour." More boarding craft launched from the Krell fleet, heading for the Terran Defiance. But inside the human ship, something had changed. The crew was no longer afraid. They had seen the Krell bleed. They had seen the aliens die. And they were ready to send a lot more of them to their graves. The first impact shook the ship as a boarding craft attached itself to the hull. Then another, and another. The Krell were coming, and they thought it would be easy. Jake grabbed a rifle from the emergency locker near his chair and checked the charge. It was full. He had never wanted to use weapons against an alien species. He had hoped that first contact would be peaceful, that humanity could join a community of civilized races in the galaxy. Instead, they had found predators who saw them as nothing more than animals to be hunted. The sound of cutting torches echoed through the hull. The Krell were breaching the ship in multiple locations. In minutes, they would be inside, expecting to find scared, helpless prey. Jake smiled grimly. The Krell had made a serious mistake. They had scanned human bodies and seen weakness, but they hadn't scanned human history. They didn't know that humans had spent 10,000 years fighting, surviving, and conquering a world full of creatures bigger and stronger than themselves. The Krell thought they were hunters. They were about to learn what real predators looked like. The first breach point exploded inward, and the hunt began.